Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I am not in my actual office at home. I'm actually at school making this video for you. So without further ado, we're going to get started with the Two Treatises of Government by John Locke. Now, if you go to this right here, this is actually the Two Treatises of Government by John Locke. Obviously, you've seen this photo before, but we are going to be talking a lot about what he talks about in this. And this is going to actually influence a lot of people that we see during this time period and how they actually, think, especially when it comes to political things. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on. Right now, what I want you to do is that I want you to sit here and I want you to read this first excerpt right here. All right, when you get done reading this first excerpt, please unpause the video and we'll move on from there. So this is obviously a little bit trippy just by the way that things are said during this whole entire thing. So when it comes to this, we're going to be talking about what he considers the state of nature and the law of nature and basically how he kind of defines all that. So when it comes to this, we got a couple of questions to answer here. So when it comes to this first question, it says, what is the state of nature? And then highlight where you identified your answer. This is just going on with like our whole citation of like text and everything that we've been kind of working on throughout this whole entire thing. So when it comes to this, I actually want to go through the first paragraph, and this is where you can actually find it. So it says, to understand political power, we must consider the condition in which nature puts all men. All right, this next sentence is the actual answer. So it says, it is a state of perfect freedom to do as they wish and dispose of themselves and their possessions as they think fit without the bounds of the laws of nature. Okay, so this is where you actually get that part of it, just to kind of talk about that a little bit more. But to paraphrase this and to actually have you guys like talk about it, you can just say the state of nature is a state of absolute freedom. That's basically what he means by that, is that like the state of nature is just this thing where you guys get to do whatever you want and whatever you see fit. And that's where we get this whole idea from. Now, moving on a little bit more, we got to move on to the next question, which is, what is the law of nature? So when it comes to the law of nature, if we move on a little bit further, we see this sentence where it says, they need not ask permission or consent of any other man. And that's what the law of nature is. You do what you want and you just kind of do it. You don't really ask anybody else about it. So when it comes to that, we can actually put that down as that it is a law in which you can do whatever you feel like. Okay? And if you can do whatever you feel like, you can basically sit there and like run your whole entire world. Okay, so that's that. So moving on a little bit more, we got the third question, which says, how does man live in the state of nature? And that's what this whole next paragraph is. So what I want you to do now is I want you to read through it again. And when you read through it again, I want you to just identify some of the things that you have actually noticed. Okay, so when it comes to that question, however. All right, so pause the video now and we will move on from there. And now from here, you may actually see that there is some things that we can actually talk about and that they actually have there. So when it comes to this, we see that like this whole idea of like how does man live in the state of nature. All right, we say it's a state of equality. Reason is the law, like logical, being logical is kind of the thing that we see in the state of nature. It teaches that all men are equal and independent, and that no one has to like harm them, their life, liberty, or possessions. All right, it puts men in a state of independence as well, and it remains it until they choose to become members of a political society. So that's a little bit about that. So how does a man live in the state of nature? What I want you to do now is I want you to kind of summarize those things. So some of the things that I would definitely say are something along the lines of like, it is a totally free state. Men are able to do whatever they please, and no other man can take away their life, liberty, and or possessions. That's basically what we see with this first quote and what we can see here. Now, moving on past this, if we move on to Excerpt 2, what I want you to do is that this is a little bit further down in his two treaties of government. So can you guys do me a favor and spend a little bit of time actually reading that very quickly? Once you do, we will get back together. Okay, so hopefully that you guys have read a little bit about this. And this is the part where I find very, very interesting because he talks about like, why would people go away from freedom? Why would they go away from this full life of just doing whatever you guys want? Okay, so what he says here, and this is kind of the question that you have to answer here, where it says, according to Locke, why would man want to join others and enter society when he is his own master over his property and possessions when he's in the state of nature? So if you guys put here in this part right here, you will notice that you'll get most of your answer. Okay, so he talks a lot about being constantly exposed to others of attack. So you know how we talk about like no one's ever able to take away his life, liberty, and possessions. The problem is that you know people just don't follow that. Like people kill each other, people steal from each other. It's something that we see, and if there's no laws in society that like kind of tell you differently, they're going to do whatever they want to do. So like they are obviously exposed to just a bunch of different attacks. All right. On top of that, they see that most men do not concern themselves with equity and justice. All right. When you're in state of nature, people don't really care about your like you. They care about themselves. All right. And the state of nature is unsafe and insecure. Okay, so again, the best way to kind of describe it, it's kind of like that SpongeBob episode where they're the caveman. It's really, really hard to like actually be protected from other things. Okay, so the whole thing that men are trying to do is that they're trying to preserve three things, three natural rights, and that is life, liberty, and property, what John Locke says here. So when it says, according to Locke, why would man want to join it? You can say something along the lines of like, John Locke argues that men want to protect life, liberty, and possessions, aka property, as well. Okay, that being said, there are others that will try to take it away from you. All right, and therefore the state of nature is not very safe. Okay, so that's a little bit about what John Locke says in this excerpt too. So let's move on to excerpt 3. Now this one I'm going to like just have you do your own, and we're going to come back and talk about it together in a little bit. Okay, so do me a favor, pause the video and read excerpt 3 and answer that question. All right, so hopefully that you guys have all done this already, and this is a very interesting part of the whole thing because he talks about like what happens if government doesn't allow you to actually like have somebody. And so when it comes to this, the way that I kind of answered is that I kind of use the highlighted stuff to kind of like show where I got it from. But when it gets asked, what does Locke say man has the right to do when government tries to pass unfair laws or tries to destroy or take away the property of the people? Basically, if the government decides that they are going to, you know, be dictators and take away their life, liberty, and property, those natural rights that we've been talking about so much, the people actually have the power and the right to sit there and install their new legislative branch and or governments. And basically the way that you can think about this is that they will revolt against them and they will rebel against the governments. And so this leads to a revolution, all right, which is what we're going to really talk about in the next couple of parts of this whole unit. All right, so moving on, there is one last excerpt. All right, I am not going to sit there and help you with this one. This one is all on your own. But the question you have to answer is, why does Locke argue the political revolutions are common and necessary? So take a moment and actually answer that question after you get done reading the excerpt from number 4. All right, and then after that, you are going to answer this question. All right, which is, how does Locke's words in the two treatises of government apply to events we will see in world history, aka like later on in this unit that you already know a little bit about, and even today? Like, how can we apply this today? All right, so there's two things you really have to do there. Remember, please ace your writing as always. This is going to be where you answer the question. You're going to cite evidence, and please do me a favor and just don't quote. I've been seeing a lot of people just quoting. Paraphrase, all right? Anybody can copy and paste, paraphrase, so that you know that you understand it. All right, and then finally, explain why your evidence actually matters. Okay, so with that being said, if you do me a solid favor and do that, I'll be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions, please let me know, and have a great day.